Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and happy Sunday, March 16th of 2025. Now I have a great bunch of random journaling that the week started with, and it ended with the last few days being about a topic that I love, and there's a book that follows this perfectly called The Biology of Belief, which is written by Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I had the absolute honor of meeting probably 15 or so years ago at a conference. He was giving a speech. He had just written a book called The Honeymoon Effect, and The Biology of Belief was one of my favorite books of his that I'd read several times. And this week, the thoughts on our belief systems controlling our biology on the level that they do was a really big part of my journaling this week. So that's where I'm gonna take this. But I wanted to share some of my random journaling thoughts at the beginning of this video, just because I think that these are some thoughts that resonated with me with what I've been going through the past couple weeks, just some things that I think most people can relate to, just some of these feelings and thoughts that came with them. So the first thing I wrote when I started journaling this week was, can you admit to yourself and others when you've been wrong? This is hard for so many reasons and on so many levels. Our pride, our ego, there's an automatic reflex that we have of defending our position. And from my perspective, it definitely gets easier to do once you start admitting that you might have been wrong about something. You know, and this has been something that I've been observing for a long time, especially the last 5 years. It's just human nature to dig in to your belief systems, even if you start to realize they're wrong, or maybe you just put blinders on and there's no way you're going to admit that you might be wrong. So I think that is such a beautiful trait to get and absorb into who you are as a human being, you know, walking through this world, is that when you either find out new information or whatever it is that, proves to you that what you have been thinking has been wrong, for you to say, oh, I was wrong about that. And it's so freeing, it's so empowering. The benefits are absolutely unbelievable. So, that kind of just dropped in the first of the week. And then I wrote this: how would my life change for the better if I would admit immediately when I was wrong about something or anything? What would happen if we humbled ourselves and took the consequences, especially on the big things, right? So that's just kind of the first thought that came in. Now, I had a morning of journaling, and some random things just dropped in from my higher self. So I'm just going to go through them and see if there's anything as I talk through these that wants to come out. So the first thing that I wrote in this little random rant I had in my journal was to rest deeply. The end of a tough cycle is approaching. This is what it feels like for me. The collective is closing a cycle. It feels like there is a collective of us on a percentage of humanity that's closing a cycle. It feels like the end of an era. Adjustments are not required. I don't feel like we need to really do anything specific. We just need to realize that there's a cycle that appears to be closing, like something that might have felt hard or heavy. And what's interesting as I'm saying this is I would say that there are some people who feel like there's a hard cycle that's beginning for them. It depends on your perspective, your belief systems, all of that, right? Don't let your past hold you back. Rise above the fray and clear out old energy. We are in uncharted territory. I really believe that is what's happening right now. In fact, every time when I say something that I've written in here and I get goosebumps, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, that's true. So we're clearing out old energy and we are in uncharted territory. If this is what's been happening in the world currently with humanity and consciousness and all of this stuff, if this has happened in the past and all those things have been, it's a big cycle that's coming around. Well, in recent modern history, we don't have record of the way things are happening right now. So we're being called out of our comfort zone. We need to zoom out and look at what it really is. You know, I had a couple of people this past couple of weeks that, you know, I'm like anyone. I can get in my head. I can overthink situations and things and people and relationships. And that's just I think it's really common personally. Until a situation is wrapped up, we can overthink it. And I think that's true for most of us. So zoom out and look at what is really happening. What really is, just is. And then keep your eyes on the prize, you know, and it depends on what the prize is, you know. Every person is different. We all have different things. We all have different spiritual paths. You know, I've changed a lot as a person from, you know, when I was born into the family I was born in, and the religious belief systems and the spiritual journey I've been on for most of my adulthood has shifted and changed and grown and morphed. And, you know, we're all on these journeys. And here's the thing, we have to be really careful and strategic that we don't let other people's journeys trigger us, right? You know, people are on their own journey, and if you like information that you see from someone, but then they say something that doesn't maybe match your spiritual belief or your belief in a higher power, the creator, God, if it doesn't quite match that, that's okay. Take what resonates and leave the rest. You know, realize that every person is on their own journey, realizing the truths that feel right for them. Okay? And then this, once you make a decision, move on. Don't wait for the other person, situation, or event, or whatever to close up their side of it. Once you make a decision, and it feels right for you, it feels right in your body, in your psyche, in your consciousness, it feels right in your intuition, and then let your intellect pop in and say, yep, it checks all those boxes, then move on. You know, this is where the overthink comes in, right? So just move on. Don't overthink so much. What I want or need and what I'm searching for, get lost in what others might want or need from me. Okay, so think about that. That's just something that might sound a little odd. What I want or need or what I'm searching for sometimes gets lost in what others want or need from me. So we need to realize that it's our job to use our common sense, our intuition, and our intellect, and pay attention to the things that we want and need. And I'm not talking about being selfish. I'm not talking about putting your children before you or any of those kinds of situations. So you know what I'm talking about. So then enjoy life through the chaos. Discernment is extra important right now. We need to appreciate, so this is where it kind of went random, appreciating plants and nature and how they patiently grow and go with the flow. I had this moment where I was sitting at my counter in the kitchen with my little morning tea ritual and my journal, and I have this little bonsai tree that I've had for probably 4 or 5 years, and it's very, very slow growing. But it's sitting in just the right place. It gets access to just the right amount of sun. It's not sitting directly in the sun of a window, but it's sitting close enough to it that it gets the right amount of sun. I talk to it, I water it, I pull dead leaves off it. I nurture this, and it's so beautiful the way that this little tree grows. So I think that if we slow down and appreciate, I just had this massive appreciation moment of my ability to know about plants, plant medicine, all the things, and then just to simply appreciate the way a plant grows. In fact, then what I wrote is my 20-year-old plant is a work of art. So the house that my husband and I live in, this year it's been 15 years that we moved into this house. But before we moved into this house, we were in a different one for 10 years. And for about 5 years into that house, I bought this really small little plant. And it was probably about this size, just in a little tiny pot. And I meant to actually Google it. It's just this house plant that has these spiky things, and it's really pretty, but it's really slow growing. But I've had this plant for about 20 years, and it's probably about 4 feet tall now. And I lovingly pull the dead leaves off and water it, and appreciate it, observe it, how cool it is, and just the fact that I've had it for so long. So I think that appreciating these small things, that especially when they're nature, plants, and the way that they grow, and if you just they're just sitting there patiently, providing beauty and all of that. So I just had this moment where I looked at this plant, and it was just, in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of this plant, and I'm going to put it in the email that comes with this video. So if you're not on my email list, I always put like a little article that I write, and I give a link to the video every Sunday and also every Thursday. So jump over to our website and just sign up for our newsletter, and I just send you an herbal wisdom video every Thursday, and then I send my Sunday message of love, not just with the video link, but with a little article that I write. So I'm going to put a picture of this plant that I've had for 20 years that I think is an absolute beautiful piece of art. It's like a work of art. Okay, so as I was thinking about these plants, then what dropped in was how our biology responds not just to plant medicine, but how it responds to our belief system. And then I spent the rest of the week just like, oh, this is such a beautiful path to expand on and really absorb. So if this is information that's fairly new to you, what I've done is I've actually kept this pretty simple, because but I think a reminder every now and again is a really, really good idea, because your belief systems create the health that your body expresses. And I've written down some really great thoughts about this, and some maybe questions to ask ourselves about how this can be true for us. So I think what this does is this changes the way that we look at our health, our body, and our very existence here. Okay, so for many years we've been told that our biology is fixed, that what we're born with, our genetic expression, that's what we have. We've been taught that our genes are unchangeable, and that reality just happens to us. Okay, now I know that we are so far evolved, and if this is like child's play to you, because this is the stuff you study too, just bear with me, because I think this will bring some really nice little epiphanies that will just drop in to remind you. Okay, so we now know, because there's scientific discoveries that are proving otherwise. We know that our genetic expression is not fixed, right? There's probably a lot of people who still believe that, actually, and I think it's mostly in the Western world, because we are very odd. We are the odd man out in the way the rest of the world looks at our health, looks at our biology, the way we relate to plants and plant medicine and the earth, and how we ground, and how we're these energetic frequencies that our bodies are brilliant, and we are connected to the grand scheme of everything. Okay, so our mind, our thoughts, our emotions, and beliefs are shaping our biology and the reality that we live in. All of these things are shaping our reality. So what if we hold more power than we were led to believe? That's the question, right? So there's a thing that Dr. Bruce Lipton, when I first read The Biology of Belief, this is where I first heard about epigenetics. And epigenetics is the energy of your genes that lives above. Epi means above. So you've got the hard biology of your genes, and then you've got the biology that lives above your genetics. That's the energy, okay? So what epigenetics has revealed is that there's something really astonishing that's happening. Our genes are not our destiny, okay? They respond to our environment, our emotions, and even our thoughts. Okay, so they do respond to our environment. If you put a bad food into your biology, into your body, then you can express some things that are not that great, because you're not nourishing this beautiful organism, right? But they also respond to the things that we believe and the things that we think. So, and this is where you never ever beat yourself up for thinking maybe I caused my own health problems or my own diseases, but here's the thing, they can be turned around. That's the beautiful thing. So here's a quote from Dr. Bruce Lipton. Genes do not control your life. Your thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs reprogram your biology and behavior. Awesome, right? In fact, I think I might need to include a picture of me and Dr. Bruce Lipton that I ran right up to the stage as soon as he was done speaking, and I just needed to meet this person, and I had my picture taken with him. And it was, there's not very many people that I geek out over, celebrities really don't do much for me, but someone like Dr. Bruce Lipton, especially since I'd read The Biology of Belief probably 3 or 4 times when I met him, he is like a rock star to me. And people like Greg Braden, I love. I think these people are God-centered. I think that they are humanity-centered. I believe that they are just people who are put here to help guide us through these really amazing times, right? Okay, so here's some things that go along with this. Chronic stress and fear activate genes that are linked to inflammation and disease. Okay, so chronic stress and fear. And things like anger and unforgiveness, when you hold a grudge, these things activate inflammation and different diseases. This is an energetic frequency. So things like meditation, gratitude, and positive emotions will turn on genes that are linked to healing, longevity, and even resilience. Okay, so there's a really good reason to stay positive. People who practice intention-based living actually show different genetic expression than those who don't, which, that's a no-brainer, right? Okay, so here's a question to ask yourself. If every thought you think sends a biochemical signal to your body, ask yourself this: what instructions are you giving your cells today? Okay, so we need to realize that our mind interacts with reality on a quantum level. Okay, so here's what I wrote about that. Quantum mechanics has proven that particles behave differently when they are observed. So this means consciousness itself plays a role in shaping reality. Okay, there's a physicist named John Wheeler. I found a quote. He said this: "We are participants in bringing into being not only the near and here, but the far away and long ago." Okay, in fact. So here's a couple questions. If consciousness can influence quantum particles, okay, so something can behave differently if it's observed. If we're it's like the whole thing of if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Okay, there's actually these experiments and this scientific research that's been done on these particles that show it behaves differently when someone looks at it, when we observe it. It's really, you should look this up, and I've got a couple things on that about that too, which is really cool. So here's a couple questions. If consciousness can influence quantum particles, could it also influence your body, your health, or your external reality? You know what I say to that? A resounding yes. Absolutely yes. Okay. What if the reality you experience every day is not something happening to you, but something responding to you? There's always that saying, I think it was Tony Robbins who said it: life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. But I actually like this just a little bit better, because I agree with that. I agree it's completely happening for you. But let me say this again. What if the reality you experience every day is not responding, is not something happening to you, but something responding to you? I love that. I think if you really look at the nuance of the change of those two words, it's not happening to you, it's responding to you. That changes the game for everything. For every way you walk through this life in this world, it changes it. So then I had some ideas about near-death experiences. And I did a little bit of research. Now, I've watched a ton of near-death experiences. I've listened to a ton of podcasts. I've always kind of been fascinated by that, and I think a lot of us are, because that's where we're all going. We're all going, this physical body is going to die, and there's a lot of information that's coming out. And I think this is where religions and spirituality takes us, because we all have a deep knowing that there's more to us than this physical body, and that we go on. Our consciousness, what really makes us us, continues on after this physical avatar passes away. So I found some really cool stuff about this. There's recent research that has recorded a surge in brain activity moments after death, okay? Showing that consciousness does not simply shut off when the heart stops. In fact, brainwaves associated with deep thought and heightened awareness spike in those final moments. I will tell you, this actually just kind of brought up some thoughts. In fact, this to me is a really kind of an emotional topic, because I think as a person who has who both my parents have passed on, my husband's parents have passed on. I'm probably I'm a baby boomer, so I'm in a generation where, the baby boomers are, we're the generation that we're the next generation to go, right? And I think that when we get to the end of our life, and the way that we do hospice care, it is about keeping people out of pain. And this is something I believe is very important. But a lot of the research that I've done, and some people that I've listened to, in fact, I love Dr. Zach Bush. He talks brilliantly and emotionally and beautifully about what happens in the final moments. He actually got one of his degrees, or one of his, certifications in hospice care. And he's got some really beautiful insights on what happens in the last moments when we pass away. The veil is very, very thin, and we have our consciousness is fully aware. I believe it's just such a special moment, and I believe the same thing happens when we come into this life and we're born. The veil is so thin. The only thing is when we're born, we can't speak. We can't. Sometimes, don't you just wish? I remember, honestly, my mom saying this, because I have a large family. My mom had her last 5 babies at home. And being the second oldest of 14 kids, I was around for most of my siblings being born. And I remember my mom saying, she was a lover of children, obviously, and a lover of humanity. And she would say, I love to stare into the eyes of my newborn. And so the thing is, I started doing that with my siblings. And then, of course, when I had my own children, you look into the eyes and they're so close from just coming from God. And you can just feel how beautiful and heightened their consciousness is, and the presence of their being. And I think we need to remember and respect and just revel in those moments. So not just the moment of birth, but the moment that we cross over into our next existence is a very beautiful time. And I think that the way we die in the Western world has been a little hijacked. And that's as a person who hasn't died yet, that's my own opinion, right? Kind of a funny statement, right? So let me say this one thought again. Recent research has recorded a surge in brain activity moments after death, showing that consciousness does not simply shut off when the heart stops. In fact, brain waves associated with deep thought and heightened awareness spike in those final moments. Dr. Stuart Hammerhoff suggests that this may mean consciousness exists independently of the brain, and that it may continue beyond physical death. Okay, so this is something that if someone were to ask me, my opinion, based on my own research and my own feeling and knowing, is that of course, we go on. We become who we really are. And we go into hopefully the great consciousness that we are a part of, right? So this raises a profound question. This raises a profound question. A couple of them. So here's a couple of questions to ask you. If consciousness extends beyond the body, are we far more than just flesh and bones? Yes. I'll just answer that because that's, of course we are. I will though say I do know a couple of people who believe that once this physical, once we die, that's it, and they are very certain in their belief system about that, confidently certain, and that's also fine too, because that's their journey. That's what I say. That's their belief system. That's awesome. That everyone needs to have it. Okay, if life is only a small fragment of a greater reality, what does that mean for how we should be living? Okay, think about that. What if death isn't an ending but a transition into something greater? Again, yes, it's a transition. Now, another thing that really struck me when I was reading the biology of belief is the placebo effect, and also something that Dr. Bruce Lipton, I don't know if he coined this, but the nocebo effect. So let me read what I wrote down here about that. We've all heard of the placebo effect. People healing from fake pills simply because they believe they are receiving medicine. But this isn't just a psychological trick. It's a profound demonstration of the power of belief over our biology. A Harvard study on placebo surgeries found that people who underwent fake knee surgeries, where there were no actual procedure performed, recovered just as well as those who received the real surgery. Now, they actually got an incision, so they believed that they'd gotten the surgery. And when you believe, and the thing is, our mind and our intellect can overpower our intuition and our belief in our body's ability to heal. That intellect and all the programming and propaganda that we've gotten will still pound that piece of us that knows we can heal. So if you actually see something like an incision and you're healing from an incision, which was part of this placebo study, your belief is that you got it. You got the surgery, and now your body's going to heal because now it's repaired, or whatever the surgery was supposed to do, right? So if belief alone can heal the body, how many illnesses in this world are created by belief in disease? Ooh, right? Now this one, holy cow. In fact, might be a really good time to tell this little story. And this one actually was really life-changing for me. So a couple years after I restarted my dad's company, so a little more than 20 years ago, I was on the phone. A gentleman called in and talked, wanted some information about the protocols we have for helping people that are dealing with cancer. So I was talking with him and sharing some of our herbal remedies, and he told me that he was calling for his 30-year-old daughter, who her breast cancer had come back. And what he told me is that when she was 9 years old, her mom passed away from breast cancer. And at the funeral of her mother, this little 9-year-old girl is hearing this statement being repeated that all of the women in our family died from breast cancer because her mom had died, her mom's mom, her mom's sister, her mom's grandmother had all died from this same genetic breast cancer. And so here's this little girl at the funeral of her mother hearing this. And none of the adults were saying this there was an unknowing and not realizing the impact, right? So he told me that when he took his daughter home from her mother's funeral, that became her mantra. I'm going to die from breast cancer because all the women in our family died from breast cancer. And when she was 18, she developed breast cancer. And he's telling me this story. And then she went through all the treatments. She went through chemotherapy, she had a double mastectomy, she did a bunch of radiation, she did all the stuff. And through most of her 20s, she was in remission. But her mantra never changed. Her mantra stayed the same. And when she was 30, her breast cancer came back. And at that point, they told her there was nothing else they could do. and I believe she went on some low-dose chemotherapy. It's been almost 20 years. I don't remember exactly what he told me, but he was looking for other things that she could do. And then, he bought a couple of things, and then he reached out about 6 months later and told me that she had passed. And while this is a really, really, really sad story, I think it's a lot more common than we think, because our belief systems are powerful. And this is where it gets really, really tricky, because we don't want to say we caused our own cancer, we caused our own heart disease, we caused our own MS, we caused our, this is where it gets really, really kind of brutal to think about. But here's the thing that we need to know. If we realize to the depth of who we are that this is a possibility, we can turn this around, and we can step out of the fear-based model, step out of that belief system that we don't have any control over our genetics, and step into the other model where we absolutely have belief. And there's some things and mindsets and programming that we have to unravel, for sure. So Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it this way. I found this great quote. "The mind and the body are one. If your thoughts can make you sick, is it so hard to believe that your thoughts can also make you well?" Right? So what belief about your health do you need to rewrite? Okay? And I have just a little bit more to finish off with. So here's the thing that I've realized. For way too long, we have been told that we are powerless. It's time for that to be done. It's time for that to be done. And we've also been told that we are just bodies, that our genes dictate our fate, and that life is beyond our control. I call BS on that. We are far more powerful than we had been taught to believe. Okay? Science is proving otherwise as well, which is awesome. The more we learn, the more we realize these things. Our thoughts shape our biology. Our consciousness interacts with the fabric of reality. Think about that for a second. Our consciousness interacts with the fabric of reality. We are far more powerful than we've been led to believe. So here's the real question. What kind of reality are we creating with our thoughts? The thing is to be really strategic and to be really thoughtful until it becomes habit, until it becomes our new programming, the realization of the power that we have over our genetic expression and everything that we create in this world. Some of it might be a perspective shift. There might be things, and take it out of a context of your health for a minute, and other things in this world that happen to us. It's a matter of how are we responding, and how's the world responding to us? It's a really amazing mind shift. So here's some things here's a great question. Are you filling your mind with fear, doubt, and limitations? Or are you choosing to step into your power, to believe in your own healing, your own strength, and your own limitless potential? Because if your mind were this powerful, if your thoughts shape your genes, your body, and even the world around you, the only question left is this: what reality are you going to create next? That's it. That's where we get to go with this. So I would love to know what you think about this. I know that there are many of you that are watching and you tune in on a regular basis, that these are things that you know. These are things that and if you haven't studied them for a long time like I have, maybe you've studied it longer than I have and you know this in the depth of your soul. But I believe that sometimes what I need especially is I need a reminder. I need a reminder that my belief system creates my health, my longevity, the reality that I find myself in. It all is interwoven. And honestly, it's a super beautiful time to be here and have these realizations, because the world is shifting. And I'm just sometimes so thrilled and happy that I get to participate in it. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful Sunday, an amazing week ahead, and we'll see you next time.